I want to try and situate what we're doing in Sheffield and what's happening around the rest of the country as well, because it's important when we go into these campaigns, we understand why they're needed, what our objectives are, and how we can succeed. And the reason we need this campaign for, yes, £10 an hour the campaign is, but the reason we need this campaign in terms of just decent wages overall is because at the moment, despite all the promises, all that they tell us in this economic system, that actually the way to lift yourself out of poverty is to get a job, and that governments are all about ensuring full employment. What we now know is that actually 2/3 of our kids that live in poverty, and there's nearly 5 million of them, 2/3 of them live in families where their parents are at work. We're the 6th richest country in the world. And last year, the Trussell Trust handed out a million emergency food parcels because people largely in work in the 6th richest country in the world couldn't feed their kids. I think that's a social crime, to be frank, a social crime. We know why that's happening. It's not rocket science. It's a simple fact. It's because wages are so low. And why are they so low? It's because in the last, literally the last few years, for the first time in generations, more of our national income is going to shareholders than the wealth creators, the workers themselves. We've not seen that since before the Second World War. And it isn't just wages or so low. We heard from Gareth about it's people, we have now had nearly 1 million people at least, and possibly more, who just don't know from 1 week to the next how many hours they'll work. We have millions who are forced into underemployment. We have some of the lowest wages across Europe now. 4 out of the 5 regions of our country have lower wages than the rest of Europe on average. And it's because of low wages, not knowing the hours you work, and the point that was made before, a balance of power between workers and employers that have introduced in our country especially a bullying culture within employment practices themselves. I just, sometimes, you know, when you watch the media, this message just doesn't come across at all. Because you hear about industrial disputes, and occasionally you'll get shock horror about Sports Direct, but actually ingrained in employment practices within our society overall, they're just the shock horror practices. As we've seen in McDonnell's and the fast food workers campaign, it's ingrained within that sector. It's ingrained within retail, in hospitality, in social care. 60% of the low pay is in social care. Who do you think works there? Women. Women have borne 80% of the austerity measures that this government has introduced. Now, the Women's Budget Group, which are one of our advisory groups to my Economic Advisory Council, they've done an estimate of where austerity has fallen. I couldn't understand the groups that they identified. It's largely young women with children, but also it's older women who've actually retired. And I couldn't work out why they've been hit hardest by the austerity of all the different groups. It's because within our culture still, it's women that do the caring. So if you cut back on local authority care, and local authority care in this country is now in crisis, who bears the burden of that? Women. Who are the most women that bear the burden? Retired women. Because they're the ones who step into the breach when you start cutting public services. And those elderly people and those disabled people who receive that care are either being forced back in their homes or forced into residential care or wind up at A&E and then accused of being bed blocked. So this whole combination where we have a culture of exploitation of work whilst austerity is happening as well is causing the greatest levels of inequality that we've seen in our society since before the Second World War.